Trump blames Iran for attacks on seafarers. Then maritime panic erupts over another vessel near Oman. India responds swiftly after reports claimed the MT Liaki Freedom had come under attack off Oman's coast. New alarm spreads across shipping lanes after the vessel reportedly stopped responding and communication was lost. India rushes to verify reports of a fourth attack involving a ship carrying Indian seafarers. Anxiety surges across international waters as every new shipping alert now triggers intense scrutiny and concern. False alarm in the Gulf after reports claimed an Indian crude vessel had come under attack near the coast of Oman amid heightened regional tensions. Reports on June 13 claimed the vessel Liaki Freedom had been attacked off the coast of Oman, triggering concern among maritime observers. Concerns grew after the ship reportedly stopped responding to communications, raising fears of a fresh security incident in the region. Soon afterward, India's External Affairs Ministry said it had established direct contact with the vessel's master to verify the situation. The master confirmed that all crew members were safe and unharmed, prompting the MEA to dismiss reports of an attack. The MEA described reports of an attack on the vessel as false and baseless, while urging caution over unverified claims online. The Forward Seamen's Union of India said the ship's VHF radio was not responding during the period of concern. However, the union added that it continued to track the vessel's position and movements off the coast of Oman. The false alarm came amid heightened tensions following multiple shipping incidents across Gulf waters in recent weeks. 3 Indian mariners were killed in earlier attacks on commercial vessels operating in the region during the crisis. Jaishankar said India had strongly objected to attacks on commercial shipping that resulted in the deaths of Indian seafarers. On June 12, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held a direct conversation with his American counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, underscoring how seriously India views the deaths of its sailors and the need for top-level clarification. During that call, Jaishankar lodged a strong protest with Rubio, stressing that 3 Indian mariners had been killed in a U.S. strike on a commercial ship and insisting that such incidents cannot be brushed aside as collateral damage. Jaishankar said, and I quote, "Spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio this evening. I reiterated India's strong protest at the attacks by the U.S. Navy in the Gulf that killed 3 Indian mariners. Such lethal actions against commercial shipping are not justified." Unquote. His remarks came even as President Donald Trump tried to shift the blame onto Iran for attacks on Indian crude ships, creating a sharp contrast between India's focus on U.S. accountability and Washington's efforts to pin responsibility on Tehran. On June 12, President Donald Trump publicly blamed Iran for attacks on Indian crude ships, attempting to reframe the crisis by accusing Tehran of targeting vessels with Indian mariners. In a pointed post on his Truth Social platform, Trump claimed that Iranian drones had targeted commercial ships carrying Indian crew members, framing the incident as a totally unacceptable escalation by Tehran against key international shipping lanes. His accusations against Iran landed at the very moment India was formally protesting alleged U.S. attacks on Indian crude vessels, underscoring the stark disconnect between Washington's narrative and New Delhi's serious concerns over American naval actions. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable." Unquote. Meanwhile, Iran's embassy in India has pushed back hard, dismissing Trump's allegation as a deliberate attempt to divert attention away from the reality that U.S. forces have been accused of hitting Indian crude vessels in the Gulf of Oman. Iran slammed Trump's claims, and I quote, "The U.S. president's accusation against Iran regarding an Indian vessel in the Strait of Hormuz is simply baseless. It is an attempt to divert public attention from the brutal fact that the U.S. has attacked 3 Indian vessels in less than a week and killed 3 innocent Indian sailors. That's pathetic." Unquote. Since June 8, the U.S. military has been accused of striking 3 different commercial ships that were carrying Indian crew members, fueling anger in New Delhi and raising serious questions about American rules of engagement in the region. In one of these incidents, 3 Indian seafarers lost their lives, a tragic development officially confirmed by the Indian government, which has stressed that their deaths were both avoidable and deeply unacceptable. On June 12, India summoned U.S. Chargé d'Affaires Jason Meeks for the second time in just 1 week, underscoring how seriously New Delhi views the continuing attacks and the urgent need for answers from Washington. Meeks was called into the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi at around 2 p.m., where senior Indian officials delivered a clear and tough message about the consequences of U.S. naval actions in the Gulf region. India lodged a strong protest over the fact that U.S. attacks on commercial vessels carrying Indian crew allegedly continued even after Meeks was first summoned on June 10, suggesting that earlier warnings had been ignored or downplayed by American commanders. India's statement said, and I quote, "A strong protest was lodged with him regarding the continuing attacks by U.S. naval forces on commercial vessels carrying Indian mariners in the Gulf of Oman, which have already resulted in the tragic and avoidable loss of 3 Indian lives." The ministry once again conveyed its deep concern over the use of lethal and deadly force against civilian shipping. Such actions are unacceptable and undermine the safety, security, and stability of international maritime commerce in a sensitive region at a difficult time. The U.S. Chargé d'Affaires was requested to convey India's strong concerns to his authorities and to ensure that U.S. forces operating in the region take all necessary measures to prevent the loss of civilian life, unquote. Amid fresh exchanges of fire between U.S. and Iranian forces, another ship carrying an Indian crew has come under attack in the increasingly volatile Gulf sea lanes. On June 11th, the India-crewed tanker MT Jvier was reportedly disabled by U.S. military strikes in the Gulf of Oman, leaving the vessel powerless and drifting at sea. India's embassy in Oman said it was closely monitoring developments around the Jvier incident and was coordinating with local and international authorities on the crew's safety. Initial reports indicated that all 20 Indian crew members aboard the Jvier were safe, offering some relief even as details of the strike continued to emerge. The episode marked the third reported U.S. strike on a vessel carrying Indian seafarers in just days, deepening concern in New Delhi over the risks to its nationals at sea. After the second such strike in Gulf waters, India summoned a senior U.S. diplomat in New Delhi, formally conveying its alarm over the pattern of incidents involving Indian crews. New Delhi has said it expects Washington to take note of its strong protest, making clear that further strikes endangering Indian seafarers would carry serious diplomatic consequences. U.S. Central Command stated that MT Jvier was transporting Iranian crude oil through Omani waters, placing the tanker squarely in the crosshairs of Washington's sanctions regime. CENTCOM claimed the ship failed to comply with repeated instructions from U.S. forces, suggesting that warnings were issued before any decision was taken to disable the vessel. The U.S. military said a strike aircraft then fired 2 Hellfire missiles at the tanker's engine room, deliberately targeting its propulsion rather than the crew quarters. Washington has defended the move as part of enforcing its de facto blockade on Iranian oil exports, arguing that such interdictions are necessary to choke off Tehran's revenue. Earlier this week, U.S. forces fired on the empty tanker Marivex over suspicions linked to Iran's oil trade, signaling a tougher American line on ships accused of carrying sanctioned crude. All 24 Indian crew members on the Marivex were later rescued after the U.S. disabled the vessel at sea, but the incident sparked immediate concern in India's shipping community. The Setabello was hit next in the same theater, with 3 of its 24 Indian crew members confirmed dead on June 11th, turning rising anxiety into anger and grief back home.